I won't do for a long time.
Well, we're lucky then. We're extremely lucky.
But this one, the article is out. I just had to put together the PowerPoint. Yeah.
I'm amazed how much you are able to write. It's just mind blowing.
Yeah. I wish I had time to write during the time when I teach, but I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shall we get started?
Yes, please, Angela. Let's get started. So I just leave things to you.
Okay. Well. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our Theravada Studies seminar. Um, we have today with us Ajahn Pattaratorn Chirapravati. She is professor of Asian art history and curatorial studies at Sacramento State University. You may know her already from her numerous articles, and numerous is definitely the word here. It's an astounding output of scholarly work on a very diverse range of topics, everything from Dvaravati, images of Maitreya, to the Pangsakula ritual, to even images of flooding and disaster that are found in Thai art. I just want to show a couple of her books, which you probably know already. There's this one here, Votive Tablets in Thailand. It's a very small book, which is...
Off, Angela, if you were hoping to show it.
Sorry, what's that?
Yeah.
We
We
can't
can see. Yeah.
What happened?
Okay.
My camera's off. Sorry about that. Apologies, I didn't know that happened. Anyway, yeah, I'm just happy to show. This is one of Ajahn Pat's books. A very small book on votive tablets in Thailand, written more than 20 years ago. It's just a tiny portion of her truly encyclopedic PhD thesis. And just this small portion of it has already become a classic. So you should definitely have this book if you don't have it already. Another one of her works, which is also very interesting, is a few years ago, she did a work, study and translation of a divination manuscript, which is held in a collection in Geneva. And it's a very interesting production. You've got the scholarly introduction and the translation of this manuscript in one book. And then it also comes with this delightful reproduction in cardboard and paper of the manuscript. So it's really quite nice in terms of, having a bodily experience of holding and looking at a Thai manuscript. John Pat, I think she really is kind of distinctive these days in the kind of broad range and of what she studies, and her very extensive knowledge of Thai history, art history, and culture, which I think is not so common these days when people tend to be more specialized. And I think it partly is that she really is following in the footsteps of her many teachers, which include Prince Subhajat Diskun, Piria Grairuk, and Stanley O'Connor. She did her PhD at Cornell. And as you can imagine from all this, Ajahn Pat is really truly energetic, mentally and physically, constantly interested in intellectual exploration. A couple of years ago, she made a trip to London, and then we took the tube together to the British Museum. And I think just during this, a less than 30-minute journey, she had like 3 different ideas for publications. It was just, I was just like in a daze, and her mind was just going. And even when she was back in Thailand, I think earlier this year, she had to quarantine when she got to Thailand. So she was staying at a hotel, and looking out the window, her view was of the street. And there was a public statue of a deity there. And she even managed to do some field work and come up with an article idea just from observing this. So if you've been spending your quarantine on Netflix and beer, that is not what Ajahn Pat has done. Normally, Ajahn Pat is super energetic, but today we have dragged her out of bed in the middle of the night. She's in California, where it is now 5 a.m. So we are just super grateful that she's able to join us today.
There's some kind of sound.
Yeah, there's some kind of noise, right? Is it only when I'm talking? Oh, it's gone now, right? Okay. Now I'd like, there's some kind of noise. Okay, I think it's okay now, right? Okay, what I need to do is to share my screen.
Meanwhile, could everybody who's not presenting please put mute their microphones?
Okay, here it is. Oh no, what happened?
Oop.
Yeah, there it is.
All right.
Sorry about that. I keep hitting this button. I thought that's okay. I'm sorry. Please go ahead, Ajahn Pat.
Okay, thank you so much, Angela, for the introduction. We have known each other for so long, and the other day when we were practicing, I showed Angela her PhD dissertation draft. So I enjoy reading her work very much. So thank you, Kate Crosby, Angela Xu, and Pyun Young Wang, who I haven't met. And for inviting me to give this talk. And it focused on reflection on the boundary markers and the new Buddhist lineage, the Mahasema at Wat Ras Pradit Satit Mahasimaram by King Rama IV. And it is an article published in a book edited by Eric Davis and Jason Combined called Sema, Foundation of Buddhist Religion. I co-written this article with Atit Chirapravati, who's a faculty in the Fine Arts Department at Chulalongkorn University. Next slide, please. So I first want to introduce to you about my talk that my point that I try to make is that when looking at architectural elements, we can actually use that into a symbol that link new Buddhist lineage and the royal lineage. So the period that I'm going to focus on is during King Mongkut, Rama IV, in the middle of the 19th century. And then I'm going to focus on Mahasema at that temple. And the king actually created a new Buddhist lineage called Thammayuttika Nikaya. It is follow the ordination of Mon Kalia, follow really closely to that. I will tell you more detail about it. Okay, next please. Will I be able to change the slides myself? Maybe not. Yeah. Okay. So this is just to show you in front of what Rajpra did with a new type of Mahasema that I will focus on. And you can see there's two naga, a chakra, the Dhamma chakra, and then there's inscription on the base of this. So, and then more inscription on the pillar. Okay, so we are going to look at just one as an example. There are 8 of them, as you know, around the temple. Next, please. So I started off with early Sema, as you know, that they're created from the earliest ones that we found were around 7th century, and they are in the northeastern region of Thailand, the so-called, Chirapravati region, and they are very huge. They are made of stone, and they depicted life of the Buddha, and they're around 175 centimeter tall. So the decoration on Sima stone changed. Next, please. So you can see some example of the earliest Sema 6th century into, you can see how huge it is. And then the decoration with early decoration of flowers or stampa. Okay, next, please. Water pot and theme from the life of the Buddha. This is the 7th century very famous site called Muang Phadat Sungyang. If you are interested, Stephen Murphy wrote about it, and he's at SOAS. Next, please. So this is a large one. Then when the Thai took over this region from the Mon, you will see that there's two different capitals or kingdoms in Sukhothai and Ayutthaya. The change of Sema stone changed with decoration of those and like these motifs, roseate flowers and all those. And the slab is thick, and then it's around 60 to 100 centimeters, so it's smaller. And then after that, they use different kinds of stone from early like brownish color stone. They started using schist or red sandstone, and then the size becomes smaller to 60 to 13 centimeter. Next, please. Then you can see this one of the most beautiful one. Is there any way that you can move the bar on that? So, but people can see the title, right? What from the mid. This one is going to be used a lot later on in Bangkok also. So the decoration with a Naga head on that side, so you can see that. Next, please. This one, Rama the Fourth temple stay in. What Napamen, this is the only temple left during Ayutthaya period from this when there's war with Burma. All the ruins were destroyed except this one survived intact because it was where the Burmese troops settled in there fighting with the Siamese. You can see there's Sema stone still at the corner, at the 8 direction around the temple. Next, please. So this is the type of that kind of Sema with decoration. Is also similar to Buddha image during that period. So you can see it's very solid and big. Okay, next, please. But smaller than this. This is from the archaeological excavation in the storage of Jangrasem National Museum in Ayutthaya. Next, please. Then I'm just showing you the type that would become the form that King Rama IV used for his temple. Okay, so this kind of cubical shape. Next, please. This is decoration of the temple. And this is the type that you are going to see that Sema, instead of being by itself, it is put in a structure. So that's become Mahasema, that we are going to start seeing that these are placed inside of a structure. Next, please. And then in the early Bangkok period, this is still an ongoing topic that I've been doing, because what is really special about Wat Phra Kaew is that it is the only place where the Sema, instead of made of stone, they were made of bronze. And we don't really know why or when it was changed from, probably started off with stone and then replaced with bronze. I think that it's probably was replaced around, they were replaced around King Rama III reign. And if you know something about him, this is when there's lots of trading with China, and temples are decorated with Chinese materials. So what is really interesting is that as an art historian, I would like to find out that is it really true that it's made of bronze? So I walk around, next slide, please. So walk around and try to see if it is real or not. And you can see this is how they put it in a structure, right, inside little that a boundary and the stone in there. This is the time when they started using double stone, double sema. Next, please. At the Emerald Buddha Temple, dated to 1782, and these days they cover with glass, you know, so you can't really take pictures easily. But I was standing and looking at all of the 8 Sema stone, and I said, how could I tell? People told me that this is bronze, but it is really bronze. And I was so delighted when I found on one Sema stone there's bronze disease, which is green color. So I could tell that it's bronze. But that's the next project that I'm working on, to investigate who really replaced it. It is possible that we can find any documentation about it. Next, please. Now it come into what Pratum Munaram, which is one of the temples that Rama IV, also his one of the supreme patriarchs, actually resided, has the Sema that's going to become the trend from Rama the 5th reign on. Next, please. So Rama the First, Rama the Third, you know, the small double lotus base on a shrine of marble or gray schist, as I mentioned, and then decorated with some of these elements: peonies, bamboo, rooster, dragon, waves, and landscape. These were found commonly, especially during Rama the Third reign. Next, please. And then King Mongkut. Now I'm going to have to read the paper because I want to make sure that I point out important elements in there. So during Rama the 4th reign, it is a royal tradition for Thai monarch, as the great patrons and upholder of Buddhism, to build temples to show their faith and power. For King Rama IV, this tradition became more sophisticated as the temple he built became the platform from which he asserted the Buddhist concept and practices he believed to be accurate or genuine, especially the Sema, by relying on the Pali Sapitaka. In some of his efforts, instead of demarcating only Kanta Sema to make the boundary of the Ubosot hall, where the monks can perform Sanghakam as commonly practiced in previous time, King Rama IV introduced the Mahasema demarcation into the Dhammayuttika Nikaya he built. For example, what Raj Pradit, what Barom Nived, what Somanat, what Makut, and what Pratum Vanaram. Okay. So among these temples, what Rajpadit is one of the most significant, since King Rama IV carefully shows its location. Next slide, please. Near the Grand Palace, so he could attend chanting and ceremony early. Built in 1864, the temple was later regarded as the temple of the 4th reign, since the royal ashes of King Rama IV were enshrined under the Buddha image in the main chapel. In addition, the Mahasema of Wat Raj Pradit is unique from other royal Dhammayuttika Nikaya temple built by King Rama IV, since the Mahasema stone are built directly on the outer wall surrounding the temple, each with an inscription. Furthermore, inside of Mahasema, there are no inner Sema or Kanda Sema as was common in other temples. This is the most unique style during the reign of, the first fact that 8 Mahasema stone pillars called Nimit Maha Putta Sema, Great Boundary Sema, by the king, surrounding the whole temple indicates that the compound was demarcated as both ordination and congregational space. It has only a small vihara called Pravihan Luang, which serves as the main chapel, and a chaitya right behind it. This is untraditional since commonly Thai temples have both an Ubosot hall and Vihan, while an Ubosot hall is marked by Kantasema markers and serve as the space for Sankakam. A Vihara is not marked as a Kantasema and generally serve as congregational space and not as a space for Sankakam. In the case of Wat Rajpradit, the area of the temple is quite small since King Rama IV was concerned that Thammayutta Nikaya order may not be supported by successive reigns. Hence, the temple needed to be small so it could support itself without royal patron. Therefore, it was more practical to demarcate the whole temple as the Mahasema so that it could serve as place for the Upasot itself. This allowed all Sankakam to be performed anywhere in the temple. For these purposes, a new type of boundary stone was created. Instead of being a stone slab, the Sema marker was carved out of light gray stone in the cubical shape. You can change, please. And the top, it was decorated with common motifs that were utilized during the early Ratanakosin period. However, the shape of the Sema stone looks more like the capital of a freestanding pillar. The top section has a solid cubical shape decorated with a chakra in the center. Next, please, of the concave. You can see that as a concave section of the stone and a pair of naga and each corner on the lower part as in the seventh pillar. Apart from the pillar themselves, each of these 8 Sema stone also has inscription on the base. Can you please go back? You can see this is the inscription. You see better here. Okay, the base of the cubical section as well. This is the inscription and then inscription here in the middle section that is slightly elevated from the wall. The upper section of the inscription is written in Pali verse with Khom script. The lower section are written in Thai verse with Thai script. This inscription are important evidence showing how King Rama IV demarcated the boundaries of the temple and thus of the Sankakam. The 8 pillars are installed in 8 directions with 2 additional pillars in the middle between the Buddha Vasa and the Sankhavasa. So between the temple dedicated to the Buddha and the temple dedicated to the monastic community. For example, we can consider the various inscription texts regarding the 4th pillar with the first 8 lines added in the Thai script addition to match the other pillars. So there's the same one, and then each. What is really interesting in the 4th pillar? Next slide, please. And the next one. Okay, so this is the one of the 4th pillar. It has long and he tells exactly, you know, at the beginning that this is for Thammayutta Nikaya, and most all of the deity of Siam rejoice in the merit of the Sangha along with beautiful pattern, and may they always protect this bountifully and the Sangha who is equal to it. Blah blah, until one section, which is the one I type it up for you, that say the southwest pillar is the 4th marker, indicating the boundary of the temple. The demarcation of the boundary was done by the Sangha. The border of Wat Rajpradit ends at this corner. The Thai verse that follow the Pali reads, "This Wat Rajpradit belongs to the monk of Thammayutta Nikaya. Monks from other orders do not stay here." This was firmly stated by King Mongkut. The Buddha Sema was installed, demarcating the whole area of the temple as indicated by the Nimit pillar in the 8 directions. The border of the temple is marked in the east. The Sankakam can be performed anywhere in the temple. However, caution must be observed. Every single monk must come to the congregational and every door must be well shut. that was said clearly on the Sema itself. In these Pali and Thai verses, the king is being as specific as possible about the relation of the Sema to the Thammayuttika Nikaya order in a way that distinguishes it both virtually, ritually, spatially, and temporally under the protection of kings and deities. It is as if the written words are themselves used as artistic, literary motive to explain the Sema, marking a new starting point in the history of the Dhamma. The point made in this inscription on the Mahasema pillars are further developed into large inscription on stone slab placed behind the vihara about the history of the temple and the dedication of this place to the Thammayuttika Nikaya order. The first inscription on the stone slab I'll read part of it for you. That it's this land owned by me, whose name is written at the end of the statement, which is King Rama IV. I, together with my children and wife and all the relatives and courtiers, both men and women who have faith in the Thammayuttika Nikaya order, delightfully relinquish this land border with the ridge that is made of bricks and has the hole to install the stone pillar marker in the 8th direction, and it goes into detail. And then he also marks that according to the Vinaya, the Puthasema can be demarcated anywhere. I absolutely have no doubt about it. I may invite the venerable members of Sangha to demarcate the Buddha Sema in this place with the stone marker, the great pillars placed in the 8th direction. So from the statement on the Sema pillar and the Thai inscription, it is clear that King Rama IV regarded the whole area of the temple inside of the boundary of the wall where the 8 stone pillars are embedded as the area to perform the performance of Ubosot. The Sanghagam, therefore, could be performed anywhere in a temple area, something unheard of in previous tradition. Moreover, it shows his intention to dedicate Wat Rajpradit only to the monks of disciples of Thammayuttika Nikaya order that he founded. If in case the Thammayuttika Nikaya disappear from the kingdom for any reason, the king indicated that the place should be dedicated to the Buddha, that no monks from any other lineages could own the temple. This is very, very important. King Rama IV's concept of the Mahasema, insubstantiated at Wat Rajpradit and other temples, ultimately collapsed the distinction between different space within the temple complex. In so doing, the king perhaps sought most to establish a special ways of signifying that Thammayuttika Nikaya order was qualitatively different than other orders, that is, adhere to the Vinaya and proposed monasticism were evidenced everywhere and everywhere within the temple. Next slide, please. So I'm showing you next, please. This is, I forgot to this our question will be, will that be the extension of Mahasema concept in the future? After Rama the fourth passed away, Rama V, his son, became the next monarch. The concept of Mahasema as the boundary of the whole area of the temple influenced another royal Thammayuttika Nikaya. So there's go back to besides Thammayuttika Nikaya, we have Mahanikaya. So you will see that King Rama V, when he took over the country, he actually built a temple on the opposite side of canal. Wat Rajpradit was on the right side, Wat Rajpapit was on the left, and then there's a canal in between that. So he continued with the Mahasema, but this temple is not a Thammayuttika Nikaya temple only, but it's also Mahanikaya. So you can see that his son continue the tradition of using Mahasema outdoor. Next, please. So here, this is what Raj Bapit, and you can see what is really interesting. And if you go to Bangkok, I highly recommended you to go see these two temples, because this temple, the tiles that are used for decoration of the stupa and the exterior wall of the temple were brought from China, were commissioned and made in the style is yellow color, but inside of the temple is in Rococo style. Very interesting. Next, please. So you will see that uh, Rama V was very worried about how the Mahanikai is going to be able to use and do the Sema properly for their temple. So he had Somdet Pra Wanarat Dang, who is the Supreme Patriarch, then wrote a text called Samut Sema Katha, which is the tradition of folding manuscript like the one that a facsimile that Angela just showed from the book that I published. So this is like a traditional folding manuscript, which has a large collection in the British Museum. So Sema Katha provides significant details reading how to demarcate the space and locate the stone, which was a great concern of Rama IV. So he had his father's note depicted in this Pali text. Next, please. So Rama V, besides making built his temple of the rain next to his father, he also built a new throne hall, which the marbles were brought from Italy to Bangkok. So there was leftover marble, and the king decided to build a temple made of marble, as you can see here, called Wat Benjama Bapit. So when the king was going to build the temple, they was concerned because he has to build the Mahasema, and where is he going to place the Mahasema? Now I'm going to have to read this section for you. So he asked, because Somdet Pravanarat expertise on the Vinaya and Sema. So this seems to be the first significant case in which a Mahanikaya temple adopted the concept of Mahasema, originally initiated and practiced in Thammayuttika Nikaya order. Because Somdet Pravanarat expertise on the Vinaya and Sema was very well recognized, when King Rama V had Wat Benjama Bapit built to be the temple of the Dusit Palace compound in 1899, he invited the venerable and the monks only from Mahanikai temple to demarcate the temple of this temple, not Thammayuttika Nikaya, but Mahanikai. So King Rama V was being somewhat festive when he called the temple Wat Benjama Bapit Satit Mahanikayaram, which means temple for the Mahanikai order, which apparently was a tease of the original name of Wat Rajpradit Satit Maha Thammayuttika Nikaya, his father temple. So Wat Rajpradit Satit Maha Thammayutti Nikaya, before it was changed to Wat Rajpradit Satit Maha Sima Ram. You can say there's a play of word. It's kind of hard to describe. So some Somdet Pravanarat, not knowing that it was a royal joke, took it seriously by using this tentative name when he composed the words of the Sima dedicated statement. However, the name of the temple finally became Wat Benjama Bapit Dusit Vanaram, to signify the location of the temple instead. King Rama V explained that the name Satit Mahanikayaram was too specific and incompatible with the word in the dedication that welcome monks to the temple from the four directions, and it should be used only as nickname. Although the temple he erected was for the Mahanikaya order, King Rama V, like his father, focused a great deal of attention on the Sema. Next, please, because the next slide.
Ajahn, 5 minutes.
Okay, last one. The king had the intention to establish what Benjamin Bopit as a college to improve the education of the Mahanikaya monks and to be a model of Buddhist art during his reign. He attended to detail of the architecture and materials, the main Buddha image, the monks' residence, and specifically the Sema, especially with his inclusive of Somdet Pravannarat. So you can see here, Rama V had the Sema stone demarcated, not right next to the temple, but you can see that this is the example of the Sema that he used. So the style of Sema marker at Wat Benjamin Bopit is also unique. Because the Nimit Sema was surrounding the Ubosat of Wat Benjamin Bapit are buried underneath with only small signs on the surface. No Sima tablets or stone were erected. So time out, right?
A few more minutes.
Okay,
If you want
all
to
right.
continue.
So
Yeah.
So each of the Nimit Sema has an inscription stating King Rama V's dedication of the land and merit. The marker of the Mahasema were incorporated into the outer fence of the temple, but instead of stone, they were made of cement pillar decorated with lotus top. So the king also, had other temple built too. So in conclusion, you can see that the establishment of the new Thammayuttika Nikaya order by King Rama IV in 1830s, a new type of boundary stone was created specifically for this monastic order. Although the decoration and medium are traditionally Thai, the shape of the Sema stone is different. They became part of the outer walls of the temple. The new order and the new form of Sema stone are the reflection of new religious practices and the new king. Interestingly, the Thammayuttika Nikaya concept and the practice of Mahasema markers were later extended to at least two Mahanikaya temples in the reign of King Rama V, Wat Phomtinimit and Wat Benjamapapit. This clearly shows the king's concern for the Vinaya, especially Sema producers, which is a great influence of his father that will ripple effects in both the Buddhist practice and architecture in the period of modernization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ajahn Pat. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm sure your article is actually provide even more detail.
Yes, the article has details of the important part of the pillars, but I think it's too long to read. Yes.
Where's the article being published so we can look out for it?
It's published in a book that is coming out by University of Hawaii Press, and the book is called Sema, Foundation of Buddhist Religion, which Kate also contribute an article in that book. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
So it's supposed to come out already, but I have never seen the book because it's supposed to be cheap, but because of COVID, everything stopped. So
Yes.
I haven't seen it. So thanks to Eric Davis and Jason Cabine, this book will be the most complete set, anything you want to know about Sema.
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. At this time, we'd like to do some Q&A if you don't mind. So for everyone in the audience, if you would like to ask a question, you can do so by tapping the little hand icon, which is in the floating menu bar on your screen, or you can type your question into the chat. Maybe while people are, I see Kate Crosby is already very quick on the tapping. Kate, would you please go ahead?
So, Robert, I haven't read your article, so.
Oh no!
End of the seminar. Let's go read it.
Yeah, I haven't gotten the book, and you know they sent us the complete book on PDF, but since I have to teach in front of computer when the link came, it's just like I wait until the book comes.
Yeah, so you're right. It is going to be quite a book because Sima is obviously a very abstruse topic, and there are multiple articles dealing with the details, and yours dealing with the architectural changes are really important. I wondered if I could ask you to say a bit more about what you think the motivation was for putting the Sima stones around the outside. I don't know if I missed it, but I was interested to why.
What Rajpra did.
Yeah.
Yes, remember this. That is the only temple that doesn't have a vihan, has only one ubosod with the main image, right? And then and the temple is very small. King Rama IV was worried that, you know, if something happened to him and somebody would take over, because you remember Rama IV was the son of Rama II. But Rama III was also his step brother. They are related, but he wasn't supposed to be the king. Rama the third wasn't supposed to be the king. He took over. So Rama IV became monks for a long period until he was almost 60 years old when he became the king. You know, he was in monkhood longer than being a king. And because he was also worried about this issue, he actually reordained. He went into the water to bathe himself and reordain, follow the Kalyani inscription in Burma. You remember that Jason was the one who translated it. So he did it religiously, follow that inscription. And then because of that, he thought that in Siam nothing was done properly, and he was ordained in the Mon lineage of southern Burma. And because of that, he created his own temple, and if something happened, he will be able to go into his temple and close the temple also. So on the inscription, he say exactly, which is unlike any, it's supposed to be, maybe it's probably more appropriate to be.
So the Sima stones, sorry. So the Sima stones are at the outside, so that the whole thing's a Sima, because monks from another Nikaya shouldn't go into the Sima
into
a different thing. And so it makes the entire thing a kind of sanctuary.
Yes,
for
exactly.
him.
The whole temple with the wall became a sanctuary. That's why he said monks can do any kind of ritual practice in any space in the temple, because the whole place is considered ubosod. But they have to close all the doors and the walls. Yeah.
So, but at what point in his career does he make it? Does he establish this Sima?
When he became the king already, he wanted to, yes. So he was a monk in Ayutthaya first, and then he was at Wat Bawan, which many supreme patriots of Thailand resided there. So he was a monk there also. When he became the king, he then built his own temple, which is near to the palace, so he could come back and does his meditation and prayer in Thammayutta Nikaya, not Mahanikai, like the other temples in Bangkok. So he would be able to use that, the textual source that they use for Thammayutta Nikaya and chant it like that. They don't chant the same way. If you know how they chant, Mahanikaya and Thammayutta Nikaya are completely different, and they also don't wear the same type of robe either. Yeah.
So at that point, sorry to carry on, Angela, for a second. At that point, what's the status of Thammayutta monks? Are there many, or and where are they based, if not at this very small temple?
Well, they were out of Bangkok. In Ayutthaya, there's one temple also, like Promnivet, and then so they resided there. But in Bangkok, the first very place that is dedicated and belong to the king is this Wat Rajapradit. Yeah.
So did he envisage not remaining king, do you think?
What is that again?
Did he envisage that he may not remain king?
He doesn't know, because when traditionally in Siam, there's the king who reside at the Grand Palace, and the front palace, which is the present day National Museum in Bangkok. That's where the second king resided. So he wasn't sure if the second king would take over the kingdom or not, right? Because he was a monk until he became the king. Yeah.
So at that point, who is this? So who's the second king at this point?
Well, Pranang Gra was the second king.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So this whole period remains still very insecure.
I forgot the name. Okay. But there's a second king. Yeah, that he was worried. And even during Rama V's reign, there was a small coup also. That was want to take over from Rama V, because Rama V was only 16 years old when his father died.
Amazing. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll ask a question. So after what Rajapradit, I mean, were the Thammayutta temples that were outside of Bangkok? So those also received the Maha Sima. Yes, in the same way. Yeah,
in the same way. But there's other temples also during his reign that were built with Mahasema. Okay. Yes. So I think I put it down. There's Wat Pathum is another one. That Wat Pathum. Yeah. Which is near Wang Sapatum, where the Princess Sirinthorn resided. There's another temple with very, very beautiful mural painting.
Do we know anything about with the rituals that were used to erect the new Sema?
No, I don't. Yeah. Another thing that I should point out is that Wat Rajapradit is the only temple that the decoration, the mural painting, the lower part of the temple has Buddhist themes, like the Jatakas and all those. But the upper part, actually, it has activities of King Rama V, like the duty of the king during 12 months. So each month has that. So it has totally different than any other temples in Thailand. Yeah. Has duty of the kings on the mural. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And you know how small it is. The temple is very, very small. And there's just only one main Buddha image. And the ashes of King Rama IV is placed underneath. And then there's a huge inscription. I should have put that in there in the back of the temple with a JD, the stupa in the back. Yeah.
Wow. I was going to ask you, it seems really distinctive that for the new Mahasema, that the Sema are raised so high up. It really looks.
Yeah.
From your photos, it's really at the top of the wall.
Yes, top of the wall. It's on top of the wall. But the point is that it's on top of the wall instead of on a low base. at 8 direction, right? This is like cover the walls around the temple. I actually had to climb onto some area that you cannot really see that Sema anymore, because there's a structure that was built during King Rama VI right next to it. That used to be the palace of Rama VI in the back. So you can't really see all the Sema stone. You can see up to maybe 6 of them. Yeah.
Right. But I guess they would be more visible from a distance than the ones that are on the ground. But I thought that I always had the impression that that the Sema were just on top of where the Luk Nimit was buried in the ground. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So they still had the Luk Nimit, this stone that is buried in the ground where the Sema is there.
I think there's another hand, Heretta Crosby.
It's just still Kate.
Me again. Don't keep anybody else from asking. So sorry, I'm trying to get my camera to go. So I was wondering 2 things. One is what's the situation with the temple today? How is it used now? What happens there? Is there still exclusion of people who aren't in the Tamayut from being in there?
Anyone can go. Yeah.
Anyone can go. So it's
just
public
but
space.
there's still Tamayutika Nikai monks there. My family live down the street, because it's an old palace built during King Rama VI reign that belonged to the Gunjara family, my grandmother's side of the family. And then when we have any kind of Tambun, Buddhist ceremony, we would invite the monks from Tamayutika Nikai to our house. So also my grandfather's side of family, Rama V reign, we also invited Tamayutika Nikai monk, because we are like that. But there's also like Votive Sirin, or some temples now. Votive Sirin has Mahanikai monks, and sometimes they have Tamayutika Nikai monks also. Yeah. So some temples have monks from both Nikaya.
Mm-hmm. Could you say a bit more about this relationship with Mon monks? I've never really understood how solid this sort of claim of a Mon heritage was, and also the shape of these new stones. Does it relate in any way to any precursors, Mon influence, anything like that, or is it a completely new design? Okay.
No, it's the king, as I said, that went to reordain himself and to the tradition of Mon monks. So we have to think of southern Burma, which used to be the center of forest monks and monks from Sri Lanka, right? That lineage that came through from Sri Lanka that's supposed to appear in Sukhothai. But then it's like there's another transmission during Rama III reign that became different. And because of that, Rama IV didn't really want to do the new lineage that came from Sri Lanka. As you know, that there used to be, there's one temple in Sri Lanka in what is the name? There's a lot of stories that King Rama the Fifth actually went and wanted to get to visit Prakyo Gao, which is the tooth relic, and he wasn't allowed to touch it like any other high-ranking person. You know that story, and that's another completely different lineage from the one that Rama the Fourth practice of Tamayutika Nikaya. Yeah. So that's why when he created Tamayutika Nikaya, he wanted to make sure that his temple is marked and make it different from the other temple. But Wat Pawan has both Tamayutika Nikaya and Mahanikaya in the same temple.
Since you mentioned that episode with the tooth relic in Sri Lanka, Stephen Kemper has dug into that more. And so really interesting, so really worth getting in touch with him. I don't know if he's published it yet, but the interpreter between the Thai and the Sri Lankans was able to go to Britain and have an audience with the Crown Prince of Britain afterwards, and so it had special treatment. So it does look as if it was a deliberate, that the British were involved in this insult to the royal family. Yeah, so it's probably deliberately making, because there was that move to try and get the Thai royal family onto the throne in Sri Lanka, to provide a Thai king. So it's really interesting story, and following his work, following that up.
Yes, and you remember when the Indian government discovered relic of the Buddha in a container that was put in a storage for a long time, when they discovered that, they thought of gave it to Thailand, because Thailand is the country that still practice Buddhism, right? So they wanted to have good relationships, so gave it to Thailand. And Thailand actually gave the other half of that, instead of only at the Golden Mountain in Bangkok. They had my great-grandfather take relics to Japan. So the Japanese built a temple in Nagoya called Siamese Temple, which housed the relics of the Buddha there. So there's another one.
Right, and there's a Thai royal temple in Colombo as well, which
yes, the one. Yes, I went to that temple to visit it, and very interestingly enough, the monk, the abbot, he kept the letter that King Rama V wrote the exchange, and he showed it to me. He has it. He showed it to people. And it's painting portraits of King Rama V in front of one of the halls also. Yeah, very interesting.
Very interesting. Well, I will stop hogging the and leave other people to ask.
Okay, well, everyone is welcome to ask a question. Anything that you like. I have another question. Ajahn Pat, you mentioned Samdeb Parwanarat wrote a treatise on how to set up Sima. So I actually was surprised when you said that, because I would have thought that King Mongkut, being the kind of person he was, would have written something himself earlier about this topic.
No, but you remember, his is on the inscription around the temple.
Right.
But he wanted to survive, so he asked the Supreme Patriarch to make a manuscript, dictated of how to do it properly. Yeah.
Right. So this is going to be shared to all other temples, right?
Yes.
I see. Okay.
So there's a question, Anthony Scott.
Yes, Tony Scott, please go ahead.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Hear you.
Thank you for the wonderful talk.
Thank you very much.
I don't know too much about Sima, but I wanted to ask how this Maha Sima affected other rituals. So you mentioned the Uposatha. What about in the first temple you mentioned Katina ceremonies? Did this new lineage have any kind of innovative ways to carry out the Katina? And did the Mahasima and this new kind of architecture affect that in any way?
No, not at all. So the monk just receive the robes right during Katin period. It's just the ritual that they do. It's just the chanting are very different between Thammayutika and Mahanikai. They do the chanting very differently. Yeah. Did I answer your question? Sorry. So the ritual are pretty much done the same way. It's just the way they chant, they do it differently.
Yeah, I guess my one question, when lay people come to a temple like this, do they donate robes within the Sima? And I guess the larger question is, since this whole temple complex has become the Mahasima, I mean, are lay people kind of more excluded, or is their activity restricted in any way?
Oh, not at all. In fact, the temple is open every day for meditation. So people go in and do meditation until 6 o'clock. and then they do the prayer and they do chanting together. So there's like a new kind of movement in Bangkok, that people go to different temple to meditate and do their chanting. Because my generation, nobody goes do things like that. We don't even know what monk was chanting, at all. People just sit there, but they know only when the monks are doing blessing and like that. But the new generation, they study Dhamma extensively. So when monk chants, they chanted in Pali, and then there's translation in Thai for people to. So the monk would chant first in Pali, and then they would chant in Thai. So now people started to understand, and they seem to appreciate more, and they go do meditation. So Vadraspadit is very popular for that kind of meditation in the evening.
That's really.
Thailand, you are free to walk in there and do meditation. People can, if they want to donate the robe, they have like one set on the side that people can donate money, whatever sum, even 1 baht, and then the monk, one of the monks would come out and do the ceremony for the person. So you can do it, anytime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for asking.
Ajahn Pat, on the bronze Sima that you mentioned at Wat Pageo, I was wondering, do you think it's possible that it just has that they are maybe stone, but then they are wrapped in bronze? Like how close did you look? Were you able to look at it?
Yeah, that's another thing I want to investigate, whether you remember the temple was built during Rama the first reign, and Rama the third was the one who enlarged and remodeled the temple. Rama the third did major work at the temple. And of course, the mural painting inside the walls of the Ramayana walls or in the Ubosot itself has been repainted many, many times. So we don't know what Rama III may have done, because there's something about it that talks about renovation of the whole temple and the change of things. So we have no idea. But why would it be the only place that has bronze Sema, right? Yeah. So it's interesting. Yeah,
it's really interesting. I mean, it's I think the object is interesting because it has a very strong ritual and kind of regulatory meaning within Buddhism that affects everyone, not just the monks, but basically everybody.
Yes.
But on the other hand, people have there's a flexibility in the materials that are used, the shape, the form. It's
so you see that when they are placed in the little kind of shrine around the temple, you can see them at each corner. So for instance, like me, when I go to Buddhist during Visakha Bhucha and Magha Bhucha, you walk around the Ubosot, for 3 times. And you would use Sema as the mark of, where you are the 3 times, right? But think of what Raspadit, the Sema outside, you don't know where.
Right.
The full, it's kind of different.
Yeah. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, then maybe we'll allow Ajahn Pat to continue with the rest of her day.
Can I just thank you so much, Ajahn Pat, really great talk. Can I just let people remind people that next month's talk will be by actually one of our organising committee, Olivia Porter. She's going to be talking about the Jyoti sect of Myanmar, which is a well, I don't know. So it's an obscure sect. It's often associated with heresy, and she's going to tell us a bit more. So I've often seen stray references to it, nothing more, and she's been investigating that. So we'll look forward to Olivia's talk. And I'm just checking the date of that. It's on the 18th of June.
You know, one thing, yeah, I should point out a little bit is that Rama IV also created a kind of Buddha image that doesn't look like any others, because he wanted them to look more like human beings. Sorry.
Oh yes, it's a good point.
Yes,
yeah,
you can see that's the image that was produced from what Raspa did, particularly.
Yeah. Oh, that's with what Raspa did. Oh, see. Okay.
It has itipiso pakwa arhang sama samatono that